Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September, one of September's BookTube events. This one created by Michael K. Vaughan, designed to celebrate Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard's immortal character. This time around to celebrate that character in pastiches of one kind or another, which is not always easy to do. There were a lot of Conan novels once upon a time. They are far more sparing now. I'm not really sure why that is. I'd like it if there were more of them, even if some of them are bad. I have had some bad experiences reading Conan pastiche novels in September, but nevertheless, I have a lot of them. I have all of them as ebooks. I have a lot of them as printed books, and I thought, keep at it. Read or reread all of these things. Some of them I remember well. Some of these pastiche novels I have read. Some of them I've read more than once. But a lot of them I read when they came out 30 years ago and have never thought about them since, so I'm revisiting them. This is one of those. The minute I got into this book, I remembered that I had read it back in 1990. This is Conan the Formidable by Steve Perry. And it starts off with a younger Conan on the road to Shadazar, on the road to a gleaming city of thieves where he can become a thief himself. When he is accosted by road bandits, a group of 6 road bandits. And he's just one person, and he assesses them and does what you expect Conan to do, fights them. And all but destroys them. It's wonderfully done. The whole thing starts with a big fight scene. Bad luck attends his footing, and he finds himself at the mercy of the last of these bandits and thinks that he's going to die. And is spitting defiance at his would-be killer, when his would-be killer is run through with a spear the size of a telephone pole, and Conan sees that he has been rescued by a giant. A young woman who is a giant. She is not just tall, she is not human. She is twice Conan's size. And she says that she is a Jat, Jate, and that she comes from a race of such giants that were made by a wizard once upon a time, and that they have a city of their own, a town, a village of their own. Would Conan like to come and see it? And Conan's got nothing else to do, nothing better to do, and she did save his life. So he agrees to go, and just as they're getting there, she knocks him unconscious, and he wakes up in a cage, where he's going to be experimented on by a wise man, a shaman of these giant people. He sees that the young giantess was not lying. It is a whole village full of giants who have they are hated and feared by the normal humans around them. Also, they're hated by small, sickly little goblin creatures that live in the nearby swamp. They're not friendly with anybody, and they have the larger male giant tells Conan, "I have nothing personally against you. I just want to experiment on you. When we capture a likely suspect from among normal men, we experiment on them. No offense intended. No, nothing personal. Of course, Conan can't get out of his cage, but he is dead set against being experimented on and steadily works on the lock of his cage, eventually breaking it loose and getting free himself. And while we're getting all of that story, that is not told to us in a straightforward way. We get that bit by bit. While we're getting that, we're also getting lots of other stuff, including one main other story about a freak collector, about a man who is employing the talents of a kind of low-grade wizard. A wizard who knows perfectly well that he's never going to be able to do any Thoth Ammon type feats, but he is capable of doing little things here and there. They are collecting freaks, biological freaks, someone with 4 arms, someone who's part wolf, someone who's part cat. With an aim towards charging people to see them. In other words, a circus show. I don't know that it's ever called that in this book, but that's what it is. It's meant to be a circus of freaks. And they are very interested not only in a village full of giants, but in those alleged goblins as well. Some of those things would be really nice for this collection. And that slowly, whenever we break away from Conan's story, we are breaking to that story. And it's all very engagingly done. Very engagingly done, and also, I mean, Conan is knocked unconscious. He has a death battle with bandits. We're going to have to wait for a siren in just a minute. Just mentally prepare yourself. Totally quiet all morning long. I filmed Cedarburg Public Library's Books of the Week, and we had sirens. I stopped filming that and sat here and read in church-like silence for hours. And now It's a siren getting closer and closer and closer. Somebody who's just blowing every red light along 2 mile stretch of road. But anyway, I'll quiet down when it gets to us. But those serious things happen at the beginning of this book, and I thought, okay, so what's going to come of this? Are we going to have a massive vendetta war between the Jat and the goblins? Is Conan going to enlist this freak show to help him on one side or another? And then I realized, well, eventually Conan does escape, and eventually he does enlist the freak show and all their various talents to see at night, to use multiple hands and whatnot. But eventually I pulled back and realized that all of it was just a lot of fun to read. And then as I got to the climax of the book, where if there's something serious, that's where it will happen, it's still fun. I think this was meant to be the closest that a Conan novel would ever get to a comic romp. I know Steve Perry's science fiction, which is terrible, but I don't know I don't know how many of his Conan novels I have read. When I got to, there's one particular scene about halfway through this book, one particular encounter between Conan and one particular kind of freak. I read that and thought, okay, I've been here before. And suddenly I flashed back to the porch on which I read this thing. So I did read this once upon a time, 30 years ago. But I don't know that I read any other Steve Perry. Of course, since it took me that long to remember, I might not be remembering. I might have read them all. I'm going to try another one. Not tonight. I'm not going to do back-to-back any authors if I can help it. But this wasn't bad at all. There are only a tiny number of incidents in it's overlong. This is 300 pages? Yeah, 300 pages. There are only a couple of instances anywhere in this thing where Conan is allowed anything like the chance to actually be Conan. But when those chances come up, they ring true. Most of the time he's a bit player, just like I'm finding he seems to be true in a lot of Conan pastiche novels. Most of the time we're following his adventures, but they're not any different from what they would be with Bran McMorn or Kothar or whoever. It's interchangeable barbarian stuff most of the time. Every once in a while, probably 3 times in the whole book, Conan glimmers with being Conan. Otherwise, there's one of those 3 moments doesn't strike me as anatomically possible. I'll leave you to guess what that is. Considering what I've told you so far, it's not that hard to guess. But all in all, I was a little startled to realize by the time I got to the end of this thing that it was meant to be fun. Not just fun in the sense of revisiting the Hyborian Age, but meant to be fun just in general, just in its lighthearted tone. Which makes me think, I'll have to check my journals from the time, but it makes me think I would probably have disliked this the first time I read it. When I would have been a lot more serious about getting Conan right and not sending him up with circus antics. I didn't have that reaction this time. I thought this was just delightful. Featherweight, but just delightful. So I will move on. I am now firmly ensconced in these Conan pastiche novels, so I'm going to move on to another one tonight. I'm actually running out of print and paper Conan novels. Once upon a time, the Brattle made me a great deal. They got all of them, basically, and they made me a great deal on that. One of the people who works at the Brattle was sick of looking at them and said, if you want to take these, I will make you a deal on just to take the whole of them. And I did. I did. And then a couple of years later, I realized, they're just taking up space. I'm not going to them often enough. I'm going to the electronic versions. So I got rid of most of them. I wish I hadn't done that. Cimmerian September did not exist yet. So I wish I hadn't done that. So I don't have as many of these as I would like. I'll grab the next batch of them that turns up at the shop. But in the meantime, I have them all as ebooks, and really that's the way I should have them. They shouldn't be taking up space. They're really not good enough to do that. So I'm going to pick another one of those, and it won't be another Steve Perry. Maybe I'll go back to Robert Jordan tonight, or pick somebody else. There are a number of Conan novels. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.